Hello everyone, this is BasicKoder bringing you a basic tutorial series on the Ruby programming language. Remember that these tutorials are meant to be extremely basic to give you a general idea of the language. As you saw in my previous video, we're going to be using the Aptana IDE as our editor. What is Ruby and what can I use it for? Ruby is an object-oriented general programming language. Ruby can be used to develop websites, web applications, Windows, Linux, and macOS applications using different frameworks and libraries. We'll get to frameworks and libraries in another tutorial. Ruby was created in Japan by Yukihiro Matsumoto, also known as Mats. The first version of Ruby was released on December 21st, 1995. So it's been around for quite a while. So what are objects? Almost everything in Ruby is treated as an object. Let's consider a wallet. We can treat its physical dimensions such as length and width, etc. as an object. We can also take what's inside our wallet, like a dollar bill, some coins, and a credit card as objects. This means that all those objects have a common relationship between each other. Think of an object as anything that can exist in the real physical world, even those things that you can't see, like the process of an online transaction using your credit card. More on objects later on. Let's open up Aptana. Head over and click on your Windows Start menu. Choose Aptana Studio. Aptana will remember the last file you were working on, so when it opens up, that's what you will see. Now, if you want to start with a new file, there are a few ways that you can do so. As you can see from my previous video, this was the first command and string that we used to display the Hello World program. Now to start a new file, head on to File, New, and then choose File. Over here you can select the parent folder. This is the folder where you're going to save your file. Down here you can type in the file name. I'll choose my file. And remember to add the .rb extension. Then click on Finish. As you can see, now we have the new file, myfile.rb. The second way of making a new file is by coming over to this small window icon with a plus sign, choosing File, and then you'll be prompted with the same window. Again, you can choose your parent folder, type in the file name, and then click Finish. The third way of making a new file is by hitting the combination keys on your keyboard, Alt, Shift, N. As you can see, the same menu as when you go to File, New, will pop up. So again, Alt, Shift, N will give you the menu. Click on File, and the same window will pop up where you choose your folder. Type in your file name and add the .rb extension. Remember to click Finish and you'll be presented with a brand new page. Alright, let me maximize the window. For this tutorial, I'm going to talk about a few things. How to output information to the screen using puts and print commands, variables, and how to assign a value to a variable, strings, and then how to get information from the user. And finally, we'll touch up on how to write a comment. As you saw from my previous video, we used the puts command to output information to the screen. So let's add in the quotes and type in hello there. Let's head over to the green button and click Run. Save the changes, and we can see the output down here. So this is one way to output information to the screen. Now the second option will be using the command print. So let's type in print, open quotes, and let's type the same thing. Hello there. Click on Run, save the changes, and now you'll see that we have a second hello there. So the difference between the puts and print commands are going to be very obvious once we use either of the two once again. So let's try to use the puts command once again. I'm gonna write puts space open quotes, and let's type in hello there again, and let's run it. Click on run, save the changes, and now you see on the console area on your screen that the second and third hello there and hello there again are within the same line. That's because print does not give you a line return. So let's erase this and just use the puts command. If I type puts hello there, and then I type again puts hello there again, and run this, save the changes, you will see that each of these commands that we wrote have their own line. If we do the same thing, let's change puts to print and run it, you're gonna see that they end up in the same line. That's because the print command won't give you a line return. So there will be cases where you want to use puts and other cases where you use print. Now let's talk a little bit about variables. What is a variable? Well, a variable is like a container. In a container you can save information such as the name of a person or thing, telephone numbers, or even Pokemon when you catch them all. So instead of remembering that information, all you have to do is remember the variable name. The variable name can denote its scope of usage, meaning that it can be a local variable, global, an instance. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. For now, we're going to be focusing on local variables. These variable names can simply be written as lowercase letters. For example, my variable will be acceptable. Also, my variable. You can also start off with an underscore and then followed by a name character, such as my variable. You want to make these variables as clearly as possible. That way you can remember what you're using those variables for. So let's start from scratch. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to use a variable called my variable. Now I'm going to assign this variable to a number, let's say 5. In order to use my variable, I'll write the puts command, and now I type in my variable name, my variable. If I run this program, save the changes, you see in the console that you have the number 5. That's because we assigned the number 5 using the equal sign to my variable. So I don't have to remember the number. All I have to remember is my variable name. Now of course this will be inefficient since the number 5 is just one simple number. We can assign it to something more complex, which we'll get into in a short while. Now before we continue, let's talk a little bit about strings. Strings typically are characters that represent the human language. For example, if I make my variable equal to, and I open quotes because strings are usually within quotes, and type this is my string. Now let's use puts to put out my variable to the screen, and now you see that we have this is my string. We assigned a sentence or a set of characters to my variable. So the same thing that we did with a number, we can actually do with one or more words. The same way you can assign a number to your variable, you can also assign a character. For example, let's make my variable and let's assign it a number, or let's assign it a letter. For this, I'm going to use single quotes, or I'm going to use double quotes. You can also assign a word or even a sentence. When you write something within quotes, whether it's single or double quotes, they are called strings. And strings can be written in two different ways. And strings may have a different meaning depending on the type of quotes that you use. For example, I'm going to use this same sentence and I'm going to add a backslash and the letter N. This represents a new line. So if you remember, when we use the puts command, everything that we write will be displayed on a new line. The backslash N represents the same thing. So let's type in, this will be displayed on a different line. And let's see if it's true. Let's use the puts command. Run it, save the changes. So as you can see, the first part of our string, this is a sentence, it's displayed on one line, and this will be displayed on a different line, it's displayed on a separate line. Let's try to do the same thing with single quotes. So let's erase the quotes and let's add in single quotes. Run the program, save the changes, and now the difference is everything is displayed on the same line. This is because everything within the single quotes will be preserved. These are called string literals, meaning that literally everything that you write within that string using single quotes will be displayed on your screen. Now remember, when you use the double quotes, we get a whole new result. That's because when using double quotes, if you use any other command within those quotes, it will be interpreted by Ruby and displayed on your screen. Now let's learn how to get information from the user. So let's delete all this. And the command to get input from the user is called gets. Gets will record every keystroke that the user enters. But in order to do that, we need to assign it to a variable. So once again, let's create my variable and let's assign it to gets. Now I want to point something out for you. Let's run the program as it is. Click run, save the changes, and let's take a look at the output area. We see nothing, but we can still type. Press enter, and that information is saved. Now we can't display it and the user won't know if they need to type in anything because we didn't ask the user to type anything. So let's fix that. Above my variable, let's put out some information for the user. So let's use the command puts. Open quotes, and let's ask the user to enter a username. As you can see, we already assigned my variable the gets command. Now after the gets command, we're going to use puts again, and we're going to display my variable to the screen. And let's see if get actually works. Let's click run, save the changes, and now we see enter a username. I'm gonna enter BasicKoder, and I'm gonna click on enter, and there you go. It output BasicKoder as my username. So let's try something different. Let's run the program once again and let's see if it works with numbers as well. Click run, head down and type any number. Click enter, and there you go. The last thing I want to talk about is comments. How do we write comments? Comments are just notes or reminders that help you or someone else read your programs. It helps clarify what a function or method does, or even describe the variable names that you are using. You can write anything you want because comments don't get used or printed by your program. So let's try writing some comments. Comments can be written in two ways. The first way is by using the famous hash, pound, number, or octothorpe sign. As you see, it turns a greenish color right away. So let's test out the comments. Let's try to run it. Save the changes, and there we go. I see no comments. Let's test the program. Press enter. There you go. Now the second way to write comments is by simply typing in an equal sign, the word begin. Now to end the comment, all you have to do is type the equal sign end, just like Aptana kindly provided us. Let's write something and test this type of comments out. Let's try to run this, save the changes, and again, we see no comments being printed out. So what are the differences? The difference is when you want to write a comment that fits in one line, you use the number sign. When you want to write a lot of information that might take more than one line, you can use a block comment. And the block comments are just simply the ones to start with equals begin and end with the equals end. Now remember this, try not to write anything on the same line as the equals begin or equals end, just because it might give you an error depending on the Ruby version that you're using. Let's go over everything that we learned today. So let's erase this. We use the puts command to display something to our screen. We also use the print command to achieve the same thing. And now remember that anything that's displayed using a puts or print command, right after you use print, the print command will be displayed on the same line. To test it, let's use another puts. Let's test it by running the program. Save the changes. And as you can see, the puts command is using one line, the print command and then the puts command are using the same line. We spoke about variables and how to assign value to a variable. We use the equal sign. We can assign a number, a word, and remember they must be between quotes, a string or sentence, or another variable. But remember, you must define or assign this variable to something before you can use it. We learned how to get information from the user, and we also learned how to write comments. So stay tuned for the second tutorial where we get into more details about what we learned today. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you like these tutorials, like, comment, subscribe.